The US President Donald Trump is once again facing questions he doesn't like to answer. This time, it is because the so-called Epstein files. Why did his administration refuse to release these documents? And what can we say for sure about the relationship between Donald Trump and the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein? I will discuss these topics and more with the senior justice correspondent of CNN, Evan Perez. Thank you for joining us and welcome to DVTV.
Thanks for having me.
I try to go for a run every morning before Donald Trump starts posting on social media. This is your quote, yes. 7 years ago. Is it still true?
Yes, absolutely. More so than ever. Absolutely. I try to go for a run. I go for a run here in the mornings before I start reading emails and before my day goes away, because there's no way you can plan your day, because you never know what the president is going to say and what he's going to do that is going to just change your trajectory of your day.
So is it even harder during the second presidency?
Yes, I think it is actually a little harder because there is a lot more inconsistency. There's a lot more unpredictability. In the first term, the president was surrounded by people, some establishment people who essentially helped prevent certain things from happening. In some ways, they would try to guide him and say, don't do that because it's going to be bad for the country. It's going to also be bad for you politically. And so they would serve as guardrails around the president. In the second term, he's not surrounded by any of those people. He, in the end, disliked all of those people. Some of the people got fired. Some of them left under pressure. This time around, he's surrounded with a lot of people who essentially are just going to do everything he wants to do. And that goes across the government. And so that's what you're seeing. A lot of the unpredictability which comes from the president, is now sort of going through the entire government.
I was asking because of the latest news. Looking at the headlines of recent weeks, would you say that Donald Trump is facing his worst political crisis yet?
I think this is his worst political crisis certainly in this term. Obviously, in the first term, there was the investigation into the Russian interference in the U.S. election in 2016. And that was a serious investigation, and in some ways that's what defined his presidency, because he was always irritated about it, right? This time around, it seemed like everything was going his way in the sense that they hit the ground running. The first 100 days, they did so many things to essentially break the establishment, the government, the way how things were done. And suddenly this crisis came out of nowhere, frankly, because they did this to themselves. You know, they're the ones that raised expectations about these files. They're the ones that said that they were going to release it, that the first thing they were going to do is release it. And then, of course, in February, the Attorney General did an event at the White House where she presented these binders to some MAGA influencers. These are people who are big on social media, who are very pro-Trump. And they came to the White House and they did this very big event, sort of heralding that they were releasing these files or these documents. Turns out they didn't realize that most of those documents that they gave them were years old. These have been public for many years. And so some of those people got mad and they became very angry at the Attorney General and the President because they felt misled. And so that's where we are. That's why we are here now, because those people, the very influential MAGA supporters of the president, felt misled, and they're very mad, they're very upset, because they were promised something and they haven't received it.
I remember that President Trump once said that he could shoot someone on New York's Fifth Avenue and not lose any voters. So did he shoot himself into the foot right now?
It does seem like certainly the administration has shot itself in the foot. And it's not clear how he gets out of this. You know, you have essentially they've started a fire, right? And they've surrounded themselves with this fire. And now they are about to be consumed by it if they're not careful. And we don't know how this ends. You know, the president has been very resilient. He's very politically resilient. It feels like every time he's in a corner, he finds a way out of it. And so this time, I'm not sure how he does it.
And do you have any personal tips?
Personal tips on
what he can do, and if he
his...
can just get away from it, like he did with previous issues.
I've had many predictions, and all of them have been wrong. So, because it just seems to defy reality, right? That they've done this to themselves. I think the one possible way that they get out of this is Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman who's behind bars, who worked with Epstein, who was his girlfriend. She was convicted of not only helping to recruit the young women, but also participating in some of the sex abuse. And she has an appeal that is going before the Supreme Court. And so they spent a couple of days talking to her. And it's possible that we find out in the next few days or in the next few weeks that she is provided information that they want to investigate. And so I think that's one possible way this could go, where they decide that they are going to open a new investigation into parts of the Epstein story, and that way they can try to put it behind the Justice Department. Because normally when you're doing an investigation, you don't talk about it. And so that's one possible way I could see them extricating themselves from this.
But Maxwell has also list of demands.
Correct.
Hasn't she?
Yes.
Isn't it a problem?
Yes, it's a problem because she wants one thing. She wants to be out of prison. She wants to be out of prison. She's sentenced to 20 years. And so, she is very motivated to do whatever it is possible to get out of prison.
And can she success?
It's quite possible. The president, he keeps saying, I'm allowed to pardon her when he's asked about it. And it's possible that she delivers something to them that helps the administration solve this problem, and then in exchange for that, she gets a pardon. I mean, that's one possible way this could go. The question is, will his political base go for that? Will they accept that? Because remember, she is serving time for sex abuse, for abusing young women alongside Jeffrey Epstein. She was involved in these crimes, according to the jury that convicted her. So the question is, how will the MAGA movement, how will his supporters take that if she is given essentially a pass to get out of prison?
And does this matter to Donald Trump? I mean, these voters, which he called that they are the past voters.
Yeah, and he said that the people who are focused on this are stupid. He thinks that they should move on, and that they're falling for a trick from the Democrats. I think he cares. Obviously, he does care about his base. But remember, I think he's made it clear he doesn't plan to run again. He doesn't have to worry about running for office again. So, does he care if these people are upset and then decide to take it out on J.D. Vance if he becomes the next Republican nominee? It's possible that he cares enough to do it. But I think one thing he does care about is he wants to get his agenda through Congress, and this is getting in the way. This is causing problems, and so that's why I think he cares in that sense.
How has communication of Donald Trump shifted? If you compare what he said, for example, 1 year ago during the campaign, and what is he saying now about Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh yeah, I mean, he absolutely has shifted his explanations or his view of what he wants done. If you remember, during the campaign, he was asked whether he should release these files, or he wanted to release these files, and he said, yeah, I think so. But he also had a caveat. He said, there are certain things that may not be real, or that might be fake, or might not be supported by evidence. And so he did caution that there were certain things he wasn't sure about. But we're still mystified why they're doing this. what is in these files that they don't want out? It's making everyone think that there must be something bad in there, and we don't know. You know, we know Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were friends for many years. We know that they broke off their relationship over a business dealings, and we now know that it's because he says Epstein repeatedly stole employees from Mar-a-Lago. And so, you know, what is it that is in these documents that has made them so tie themselves in knots?
Yes. According to a recent poll by Ipsos and Reuters, most Americans think the president's administration is hiding information about accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein and his clients. So could that be true? I mean that they're hiding these documents intentionally.
You know, that's the big question that is being raised by this, because they're taking on so much political fire. You know, they're under attack, and they're taking a lot of damage from this. So it has to be worth it. There has to be something in those documents that is worth going through all of this. We don't know what it is.
Because the Wall Street Journal revealed information that the name of Donald Trump appeared multiple times in Epstein files.
Right.
Do we know more details about this?
We do know that, you know, obviously because they were friends, and there were a lot of the files are interviews with witnesses, so witnesses would have seen Donald Trump and Epstein together at different events. So we surmise that that is a lot of what occurs in these files is interviews with people who either saw them together or heard of them being together or were aware that he was involved in some of their events. We don't know much more than that. We know that in the first documents that were released to the MAGA influencers in February, we know that Trump's name was in those files. And some people in the White House were very upset that the Justice Department and Bondi, the Attorney General, had not done enough to sort of shield him from that. So we suspect and we believe that that the documents that they're holding back, also his name is also in there. We know it's been you know, we've been told that by sources that his name occurs many times in there. In what context, we don't know.
Yeah. And what's more, Donald Trump sues the Wall Street Journal over another report about Jeffrey Epstein. What was this article about?
Zaujal vás rozhovor a chcete slyšet víc? Jednoduché řešení. Staňte se našimi předplatiteli a pusťte si ho v plné délce na webu DVTV. A pokud to ještě neděláte, začněte nás odebírat. Žádná luxuska už vám neunikne.